Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gyan Timirandasya. Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Continuing our reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 5, with commentary of Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Thakur. We're hearing the story of Narada Muni's previous birth. Before being Narada, he was the son of a maidservant who was engaged in serving some sadhus. And here he now describes that one time I happened to eat their food remnants with their permission, and all obstacles to bhakti disappeared by that. Having developed an inclination for bhakti, being pure in mind, taste for devotional processes inevitably developed in my mind. So here Narada Muni is describing his own spiritual progress. We had already expressed with our last reading that there are 4 stages of bhakti: mercy of the devotees, service to the devotees, development of faith, and then taking shelter at the feet of the spiritual master. So here, that progression is further described, how all obstacles were removed by the mercy of those devotees. All obstacles to bhakti disappeared. The commentary says, after getting permission from them to do so, I ate only once. The power of Maha Prasadam. It is described that the foodstuffs that have been offered directly to the deity and then taken is called Maha Prasadam. But when it is the remnants of the spiritual master who has taken the remnants of Krishna, then becomes Maha Prasadam. So he took the Maha Prasadam. He said, I ate only one time some rice stuck to one of their dishes. By that, all obstacles to my bhakti were destroyed. Having taken their food, I developed without effort bhakti in the form of hearing and chanting and remembering the Lord continually. So what may have been difficult has now become easy. Hearing, chanting, remembering becomes like a natural aspect of his own being. In a devotee, this develops, that we live or nourish our existence through hearing and chanting and remembering the Lord. Like foodstuffs, we have to nourish our spiritual life through hearing, chanting, and remembering. And here, when the obstacles are removed, there is a developed taste. So he has noted that by their mercy, I took their food remnants, and I developed a taste now for hearing and chanting and remembering the Lord. Having developed a tendency for bhakti after eating the devotee's food, which applies to anyone else as well, I inevitably developed a taste, ruchi prajayate, for hearing and chanting, tad dharme, in my mind. By this verse, 5 stages of bhakti now are understood. An awakening of a desire for worship and the development of true bhakti with the anartha nivriti, the removal of unwanted things within our heart and mind, and nishta and ruchi, a faith which is fixed and a taste that develops. By the next verse reads, by the mercy of the sages who were chanting about the all attractive pastimes of Krishna daily through meditation on their beads, chanting Hare Krishna, or through kirtan. This took place daily, and so he would hear them chanting. I heard about Krishna in that place with a Shakti. Hearing constantly, I then developed Rati for Krishna. Commentary. Shraddha here indicates the 10th stage of Ashakti. At every moment, or at hearing every word, I developed Rati, that is a bhav, a spiritual emotion awakened within my heart for Krishna. A natural love was awakening. Bhav is like precedes or before prem, full prem manifests, there is the awakening of that bhav for Krishna. These qualities of Krishna, he says, Priya Shavasi, were very pleasing to hear. Ruchi means rati, or developed taste, the 11th stage. Then he goes on to say, having attained an excellent taste for the Lord, my intelligence did not waver from the Lord. By my intelligence, I directly experienced that my gross as well as my subtle bodies, created by the Lord's material energies, were fixed only in the Supreme Lord. He noticed the transformation taking place, because the gross and the subtle bodies are produced of the material energy of the Lord, but they became transcendentalized in the sense that they awakened also the experience of service to Krishna and fixing the mind, which could be considered material. Also, the mind is considered matter, but it is awakening a spiritual emotion, all coming from the pure Atma. Having attained an excellent taste, my intelligence became steadily fixed in the Lord. By that intelligence, I saw that this gross as well as the subtle body existing in me, by the influence of the Lord's material energy, to be established in Krishna. The gross body became fixed in offering respects, carrying the Lord's water pot, and other actions. In other words, the body now became spiritualized in the sense that it was utilized in the service of the Lord. He says, I did things like carried the water pots to be used in the Lord's service, as well as other actions. The subtle body, with its senses such as ear and eye and mind and intelligence, also became fixed in tasting the sweetness of the Lord's qualities and form, not as in the material objects which are only for one's own sense pleasure. No, it awakened a spiritual gratification in the sense that the happiness was experienced on a different level than previously. The eyes still seeing, the nose, these things function with this material body. Taste with the tongue, see with the eyes, and so forth. But an extra special joy awakened within him, a spiritual type of joy awakened within him by seeing the deities or tasting the remnants of their foodstuffs or engaging the body in the Lord's service. It wasn't for one's own pleasure that he was doing this. Now the pleasure was in pleasing Krishna, the joy of pleasing Krishna. That is the nature of love, that one wants to please the object of one's love. Just like in cooking, if one cooks for someone whom you love, there's a special pleasure when they appreciate that taste. Oh, you've gone to so much trouble, and this is wonderful, all these things you have cooked, like that. So that's comparable to some degree, but this is completely spiritual. The devotee cooks for Krishna. The devotee sings for Krishna. The devotee dances for Krishna. Everything he does, using the body as well as the mind and the senses, is for Krishna's pleasure, and appreciating Krishna's appreciation of the devotee's service. We feel gratified. In other words, the devotee understands that Krishna is actually enjoying the things that he is rendering service to him with. The foods he's prepared, Krishna enjoys it. So this brings us joy. Sometimes Prabhupada would give the idea of reflection in a mirror. You smile into the mirror, and the mirror image is smiling back. So one can feel that Krishna is pleased with the efforts that we are putting out. So previously the eye and the mind were not fixed in the Lord, even by exerting much effort. But this was not the case now. With the development of rati, the mind and the other senses, giving up the practice of fixing themselves on material objects to which they had been long accustomed, became automatically fixed upon the Lord. Thus, when he says, I see, here he means direct experience. I am seeing, I am feeling, I am knowing that Krishna is pleased with the efforts that I am putting out. In this way, next verse says, for 2 seasons of the monsoon and autumn, I constantly heard the pure glories of the Lord chanted by these generous sages. I then developed prema. So here, gradually, he is awakening his love for Krishna, the awakening of Bhav. Now, pure prema, he says, I developed prema, the manifestation of pure love, which destroys all rajas and tamas, all passion and ignorance within the jiva. Commentary. Extending over the 2 seasons, that is 4 months, the 4 months of the rainy season, I heard constantly prema, which destroys all rajas and tamas in the jivas, appeared within me. It is implied here that there was a destruction of rajas and tamas in others as well who realized devotion to Krishna. In other words, this isn't only Narada is explaining this, but this relates to every jiva who takes up the process of devotion. That there is a destruction of rajas and tamas when there is awakening of prema. This is the 12th stage of bhakti, direct vision of the Lord and the experience of sweetness. That will be explained later in the next chapter. Text 29 and 30. Though I was a boy, I had developed prema for the Lord. I was humble and sinless, filled with faith, self-controlled, and was willing to serve. The sages, most affectionate to this fallen soul, as they were about to depart, taught me the most confidential knowledge of pure bhakti, which was taught by the Lord himself. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikaraye. Originally, this knowledge was taught to Brahma, Tene Brahma Hridaya, manifesting within the heart of Brahma. So, that same knowledge, which was imparted into the heart of Brahma and then handed down through our disciplic lineage, is that knowledge which we receive through the mantra, we receive through the ear, that is called diksha. We receive the mantra, and then the full explanation of the mantra is given either by the diksha guru or a siksha guru, who further fills in the mysteries of this powerful mantra that we receive. The not only the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but the Diksha mantras that we receive from our Guru, especially the Gopal mantra. So the commentary goes on to say, they gave knowledge to me. And knowledge can mean in the form of giving me that Diksha. At that time of their departure, they gave me that Diksha, which awakened the knowledge of myself, the true self. They gave knowledge to me who had developed prema bhakti for the Lord. This knowledge directly revealed by the Lord, that son of Devaki. It was revealed directly by the Lord from within the heart. Confidential scriptures, Shastra Guyam, consists of predominance of Gyan mixed with some bhakti. But more confidential scriptures, and that which predominantly bhakti with a mixture of a little Gyan, is described as Shastra Guyatram. But the most confidential scriptures, Shastra Guyatama, is pure bhakti, which was given to Uddhava and Brahma in the Bhagavatam, and to Arjuna in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, by the Lord. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam. Krishna says, I'm giving you this king of knowledge, Raja Vidya. Vidya means knowledge, and Raja means topmost. Raja Guyam, although it is the most secret of all secrets, I am giving it to you. So this knowledge has been given directly by the Lord himself, beginning with Brahma, later on to Uddhava and to Arjuna, when speaking Bhagavad Gita. Contemplating that they would depart the next day, the sages taught him that most confidential knowledge of pure bhakti. So that knowledge was then revealed to him by the mercy of the sages. And he goes on to say, by this knowledge, I understood the influence of the spiritual and material energies of the Creator, Lord Vasudeva. By this understanding, the devotees attained the Lord's abode. This topmost knowledge awakens within us the understanding of how the energies of the Lord act upon us, both materially and spiritually. By this knowledge of Bhagavatam, I understood the influence or the effects of the Lord's Chit Shakti, the Kripa Shakti, the Shakti of divine mercy, the Achit Shakti of the three gunas, and the influence of knowledge of the Lord's powers and sweetness. All of this I came to understand. O Brahmanas, they indirectly explain the destruction of the three types of miseries in which actions are offered to the Paramatma and the Bhagavan, as well as the impersonal Brahman. They described all aspects to me about the nature of bhakti and how it destroys the miseries of the conditioned soul who is tightly bound by the samsaras of this world, and how one progresses through the impersonal Brahman to the Paramatma, to the Bhagavan understanding. Having had me practice bhakti beyond the modes of nature, in other words, pure bhakti, bhakti can be influenced by the modes of nature that is described within the writings of the Goswamis also, but pure bhakti is that which is free from any tinge of Maya energy, Maya Shakti. So they taught me how to practice this bhakti, which was free from the modes of nature, and thus experience prema. They taught me the Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the Lord, who is the direct speaker of bhakti. They taught me the processes of Gyan, that is, the wisdom to understand these things, and the goal of liberation. Considering that the question of Gyan may arise when the boy grows older, they taught me everything I needed to know, he says. Text 33, the substance by which a living being's disease arises and which does not cure the disease when combined with other substances is the medicine and destroys the disease. In other words, the living being has a disease. He is touched by the influence of the Maya Shakti. And how to apply that now in devotional service is the remedy by which one becomes free from the disease. Applying that wisdom or that logic, that what we have the body, we have the mind, we have the intelligence, we have the senses, has to be applied now for a spiritual purpose. The idea is that by utilizing this, the disease itself subsides. We become healthy. We become full with transcendental knowledge and praying for the Lord, which is the state of perfection for the living being. So that is the healthy state of the jiva, not the state in which the living being finds himself entrapped within material nature. This is considered a diseased condition. So becoming free from the disease, he now becomes healthy by applying the body, the mind, the intelligence, everything in the divine service of the Lord. So in this way, all types of karma yoga, when offered to the Lord by mankind, although karma normally causes the continual cycle of rebirth within this world, when all actions are done now with the idea of pleasing the Supreme Lord, all material karmas are destroyed when offered to the Supreme Lord himself. That Gyan which arises from karma, which is pleasing to the Lord because of being offered to him, is now known by the term bhakti. when we learn to utilize everything that we normally do, just like Arjuna. He is a Kshatriya. He is engaged in battle, but he learns to offer that to the Supreme Lord. Everything we do, by what is naturally our nature or tendency, we learn to apply that in the service of the Lord. And that karma or action is then referred to as bhakti. And it liberates the conditioned soul from the entanglement of the samsara, because there is no more action-reaction. The actions are offered to Krishna for his pleasure, and Krishna fills us with the joy of pure bhakti. When those engaged in karma continuously perform those activities in accordance with the instructions of the Lord, and also chant and remember the qualities and the names of the Lord, one is engaged in pure bhakti. This is the process by which the devotee becomes free from the cycle of birth and death. And so they taught me this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumna Anirudaya Namaha Sankarshanaya Cha. Here he says, this is the mantra they offered me and they gave me. I offer my respects to Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Let me also offer respects to Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan. The idea, these are all the expansions of the Lord. We'll continue with this understanding next time we pick up the Bhagavatam next week. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumna Aniruddhaya Namaha Sankarshanaya Cha. Jai Shri Radhesha. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.